This is some of the worst of the worst. The bullshit that we got in 2020. The year already sucked as it was, just given the everything going on in the world, the pandemic, the political climate. It was terrible. But as far as movies go, this is one of the worst. At number 10, man, oh man, John Henry. Why did this movie ever get made? I know that Dwayne The Rock Johnson is also making his own film. I pray that it's better than this shit that we got with Terry Crews, who Terry Crews is a decent enough actor, especially when he does comedy. He goes for it, he does well. But for some reason, I just don't buy him as the stoic, heroic type character. Just there wasn't much there. Maybe if they gave him more of a personality or gave him some one liners just to be more interesting. And Ludacris. Ludacris. Well, what? Ludacris isn't even that good of an actor, if I'm being completely honest. He's fun in the Fast and Furious movies, but that's it. To see him as a villain, to see him try to be taken seriously as a foe, as a threat, is so laughable. At number 9, The Craft Legacy. Once again, why was this movie ever made? The Craft, the first movie, I just watched it recently for the first time to prepare for this new movie. So it's not as if I grew up with it. It's not as if I have some big prestige and I'm holding this new movie against it. No, no, it's just that first film was way better acted, telling the story, telling how these girls came together and the camaraderie between them. I just didn't buy these girls at all. I didn't buy their relationship. I didn't buy them as friends. Sure, the fact that they stay friends throughout it, maybe that's the only thing that I like compared to the other one. But when you get to the main villain, everything else, it's nitpicky complaints that annoyed me throughout, but probably would have been saved if we didn't have this bullshit dumb villain with David Duchovny at the end. Wow. I know it was supposed to be a twist. I know it was supposed to try to shock you and surprise you, but this was terrible. God awful. Whoever wrote this and had this be the big reveal to try to shock us when all it did was piss me the F off. And then that ending scene where they touted and they built up the idea that this is actually connected to the original. It's actually a sequel, not a remake or reboot. I thought, oh wow, okay, so let's see what they do with it. And then to have the reveal at the very end in that one last scene, you bring back that original actress from the first film, and she doesn't even speak, she doesn't even do anything. The movie just cuts off. Fuck you. Number 8, The Turning. The Turning is one of those horror films I probably wouldn't have seen under any other circumstances, but honestly, sometimes I watch movies knowing that they're going to suck, knowing that they'll be bad, but I know I'm going to need material for the worst movies of the year, so I say, all right, F it, I'll just watch it so that I have movies to add to this list. And that's why I saw this film. This babysitter who has to come to the house and watch these kids. And of course, the house is haunted. Blah, blah, blah. She sees ghosts and she's being terrorized. And the same bullshit you've seen all the time. You don't know whether the kids are also haunted or corrupted. But who gives a shit? Who gives a fuck? I know Mike from Stranger Things. I know he's an actor that people are loving, and I want to see him transition to movies in a good positive way, but he hasn't had the greatest track record if you're adding this to his resume. At number 7, A Fall from Grace. Honestly, this movie probably should be higher, and I might have had it higher on the list if it wasn't so damn funny and entertaining. Tyler Perry strikes again with a Netflix movie this time around, so it wasn't in theaters before the pandemic, but you have a film about this older woman she's so sad and depressed and she thinks she's going to be alone until this young good-looking guy randomly asks her to marry him, and he seems like the greatest thing until maybe what, 2 weeks after marrying her, he turns into a complete dickhead, shit fuck who treats her like shit, clearly is stealing money from her, clearly is manipulating her life, her job, and whatnot. I mean, this is so over the top and so unrealistic the way Tyler Perry writes his characters, writes the evil, bad people in his movies. It's always over the top. It's always more dumb and extreme than even a soap opera would present. And then once you get to the end and the twist, wow. Wow, 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 wow. How dumb is all of this? If you guys have seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If it wasn't for Ashtray Bitch and all of the crazy ridiculousness of this film, it might have been a little higher. At number 6, Fatal Affair. Fatal Affair, it's another Netflix movie that, you have a black cast, so you retell a story that you've seen before, as far as this time it's a wife instead of a husband who is lured into possibly cheating on her husband with an old flame. Omar Epps playing a guy who is completely obsessed with Nia Long from the past, and now he's still trying to get with her. And for some reason, just the acting, especially with Omar Epps, was not there. He was not believable as this crazy psycho guy. It just seemed like they were all half-assing and sleepwalking through all the performances. But not just that, the dumbness of this plot, and especially towards the end with all of the things that Omar Epps does to try to ruin her life, but how delusional he is at thinking that they're still going to be together. It's just dumb. Number 5, Brahms, The Boy 2. I forgot that this movie came out this year. That's how long and drawn out the 2020 was. But The Boy, the original one, was pretty bad, but also pretty forgettable. So it was one of those things where I guess it was so cheaply made that they were able to make another one, even though nobody asked for it. This time around, you have Katie Holmes as the mom, and her son is being slowly coerced by the doll, the same doll that we saw from the first movie. However, I guess somebody decided to change some shit around. The first movie, you're led to believe that the doll is doing the creepy things. It's like Annabelle or like Chucky, possibly, right? He's not talking trash and he's not being animated, but maybe he's doing things. Only to find out that no, the first movie, it's actually a crazy boy that's grew up living in the house, living in the walls, and he's doing some shit. This film decides to retcon all of that and admit that there is a demon in this doll and that it is manipulating people, possessing them. And I just thought all of this was dumb and bullshit. And the little creature that ends up being in the doll was so goofy and laughable that it was not creepy, scary, or anything memorable at all. Coming in at number 4, The Last Days of an American Crime. This is a movie that I guess technically isn't the worst of the worst as far as writing goes and as far as acting goes. The acting's actually somewhat decent. My main issue with this film is that it was so boring. So boring, so uninteresting, so uninspired. I don't know. I couldn't get into it. I couldn't get into this. I couldn't get into these characters, that they were very unlikable as far as how evil they were, but yet we're following them. They clearly can't trust each other. That you're watching them, not really caring if they succeed or whatnot. And then when characters die, especially our main characters die, you just don't care. Number 3, The Grudge remake or second remake or reboot or whatever the hell they consider this. I'm somebody who's not the hugest fan of the Grudge movies in general, the ones with Sarah Michelle Gellar. I think they're fine at best, a little creepy some scenes, but overall the story, the backstory never really compelled me to continue on or find out more about it. It seemed kind of slappily thrown together. And in this film, maybe they were trying to be more focused, maybe they were trying to tell the story in more of a straightforward way. And the cast is great as well. There's some really good actors, John Cho and Betty Gilpin, and just a lot of actors in here that I'm kind of like, hey, wow, all right, that's surprising. The woman from the Insidious film, the old lady. I mean, they're all good actors. It's just I was not scared. I was annoyed by the constant jump scares. When a movie tries this hard to do jump scares and tries this hard to scare you, but it's failing at every attempt, that's where you go even lower on this list. And not just that, but it was unnecessary. This film was completely unnecessary. Why are we pretending like The Grudge at this point is still relevant? We already should have learned this from Rings when they tried to bring that back a couple of years ago. Number two, Artemis Fowl. Fuck you, Disney, for trying to put this movie in theaters. Originally, this was supposed to be in theaters. I know that this is based on a really popular book, a book I've never read, but trust me, I have no interest in reading it now. And that's a shame because maybe it is good. Maybe the book is good, but this film is so bad, so terrible, so disjointed, so all over the place. Characters are so unlikable. This main kid is so unlikable, so annoying, such a dickhead that you don't care about anything. The overly CGI effects that just don't look good. I could not imagine watching this on screen in the theaters. The fact that it was put on Disney Plus, kind of dumped on Disney Plus, tells you that they probably realized this wasn't worth pushing. This wasn't worth charging you extra money on Disney Plus either. They knew that this was shit. They knew that this wasn't going to go anywhere. Josh Gad, I don't know what the hell he's going for with this character, this homeless character, that when he opens his mouth to do that creepy thing and the horrible CGI, it's just, what are we doing here? The disjointedness of how Josh Gad's telling us, narrating everything, but then I just, oh man, thinking about this is pissing me off more. But coming in at my number one worst film of 2020, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. I think it was a no-brainer. I was pretty sure that watching this movie, even back in January when it came out, that nothing else would beat it for the worst. I'm talking about Doolittle. And it's a shame because Robert Downey Jr., honestly, I have to remember this. I have to look back and think if Avengers Endgame might have been my number one favorite film of 2019. Cut to 2020, his very next film is this piece of shit. This is something that he produced, he was actively involved in. It's not as if he's a struggling actor who just needed the money or needed the gig or needed something, owed a favor to a studio. No, he's Robert Downey fucking Jr. He's Tony Stark. He's rich up the ass. He has enough money to shit out money and use it to fucking wipe his ass. It's ridiculous to see him with this dumb accent, this weird accent that he's going for. The horrible CGI of the animals talking and the weird, like the very famous actors that got to do voices, but how wasted all of them were. And then I got to a point where I had to shut the movie off. You had Antonio Banderas, you had Michael Sheen, you had these actors come in and their adversaries, and I just kind of I checked out because I said to myself, there's no way that this is going to turn around. And I give myself 2 movies a year where I can just either walk out of the theater or shut it off and I don't have to finish it. I don't obligate myself to finish it. And that's what this was. This was one of the only movies this year that I could not finish. And then when I found out after the fact how this movie ends with the dragon and Robert Downey shoving his arm up the dragon's ass, and the fact that this was a reshot ending, this was what they thought was a better ending than whatever they originally had. Holy fuck. This film is terrible. Absolutely awful. I'm so glad it bombed, and I usually don't like to wish damage to films because it's bad for the business, it's bad for everybody involved. But no, Doolittle, you suck, you're a piece of shit, you deserve to burn in hell, and I'm glad that's where you are, and hopefully will stay. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below what are some of your worst movies of 2020. What do you think of my list? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!